Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're here having a discussion about potential buffs and changes we could have for M1 killers, like as you can see that I drew here, Trapper and Ghostface, as two examples of characters that potentially could receive some really interesting changes, and I wanted to kind of pitch a few, and I wanted to know if you guys agree, disagree, and you can let me know in the comments. But I want to go ahead and start off. I want to start off and preface by saying that we're referring to characters that are unable to speed up, such as Skull Merchant, such as Ghostface, and I wanted to actually show you guys here, which characters specifically too. Freddy could be included in there, Trapper, Ghostface. So I want to talk about a list of characters here, so such as Ghostface, Trapper, Legion, Freddy, as a few examples. I wouldn't say Clown, he does have a way to speed up, I would say, and that, like, him having the potential changes I want to pitch in this might be a little bit too powerful. So, either way, these are just a preface. We're talking about the low tier killers that do not have haste, do not have any chase potential, do not have anything. Freddy is a special case where he kind of does and kind of doesn't. He did get reworked, but we did throw him in here. I did throw him in here into the list to kind of, make a point. But ultimately, we're referring to these killers. And, so I did get a comment from the other day that kind of talked about this topic before, and it was saying that Hag has this add-on, the Waterlogged Shoe. If you guys are unfamiliar with Hag, she does have an iridescent add-on that does give her movement increase on her base, but it means that she can't teleport. So what does that mean, right? So she is a 4.4, I believe, and moves quite slow, is unable to really chase people, but she does have the teleportation. But when you put this on, it actually increases her haste by 17.5, I believe. So that would mean that she's actually going she's increasing from about her 110 movement. I think it was 7.5. My bad, I said 17. It was 7.5%. So that would basically mean that she actually goes past the normal 115 movement speed. It's 17. It's about 117.5% movement, something like that. And so I was thinking, how can we apply this to regular killers that are unable to catch up? And another example would also be a good change for Ghostface specifically is if you played the 2v8 and he had like that cloak haste speed. I think that would be quite effective in my opinion. I think that would be pretty good. But obviously most of us don't play Hag, but if you do, you probably have seen this add-on, or you maybe have heard of the Chase Hag build. So that, in that mindset, I thought, why don't we lean into that further? I thought that was one of the most fun times I've had playing Hag, was honestly going around moving quicker, because I didn't really find the teleporting to be that interesting. So obviously, once again, let me know. Is this a good idea? Like, are we cooking yet? Like, hold up. I like it. I'm liking the idea so far, but there is more. Okay. So, then I want to preface too. Like, I don't think that this idea that we have here should be really pressed. So let's talk about it. Is 2% too much? 115 to 117, 4.6 to 4.8 meters. Like, is that too much? Right. That is what we're asking. Okay, because we can look at an example like Chase Hag, right? And does anyone honestly think that Chase Hag is the most difficult thing to go up against? I would probably disagree. But I do think that Chase Hag does allow you to be able to, maybe make a little extra distance that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think that it's as small as it may be, it could potentially allow to raise the power level of some killers. And I was thinking that this has many applications, especially a character like Ghostface, where you can potentially, say, have drop like Knife Sheath and increase the haste to 12% because of if you're going with the stacking here. If you have 2% on base from the 115, you get an extra 12%, which makes Ghostface a lot stronger in chase in that way if Ghostface is able to get that mark off. Another good example potentially could be Trapper. If he moved maybe 2% quicker, maybe it could help him, make up the distance that he loses by placing down the traps. Or with Skull Merchant, I think used to have like haste. I think sometimes, but it was only when she got the claw traps off. And I don't even think that, at least when I've seen Skull Merchants, at least when I've watched Skull Merchant, I've never actually seen like the haste actually, make such a gigantic difference. But maybe it could, you know what I mean? Maybe it could. But, I'm also trying to take into account that we are in a sort of meta nowadays where like haste is starting to kind of pick up. Like, we know that Behavior has updated a couple of these perks that do give you haste, and we've seen batteries included give us like an additional 7% as an example. And I think that we can try to lean more into that kind of idea, because it does mean that we are more focused on chasing, and that in itself I think is one of the most fun ways to play a low tier character. But even furthermore, let's also talk about the other recent changes that we've gotten, which is like tear radius changes, like lowering the tear radius from 32 meters to 24. And how do we go about doing that, right? Like, how do we apply this logic to other killers, right? And obviously we know that Ghostface received this change to 24 meters. We also seen it with Pig, and we've seen it with Skull Merchant. Now, we obviously know people aren't really playing Skull Merchant as much as they have before, and we obviously know that they were heavily nerfed in the last couple of patches and stuff like that. We already know that. But I think we can extend this further to other characters like Trapper. I think that a 32 meter tear radius on Trapper just doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense, in my opinion. Because they move very slowly, and they're really unable, like, Trapper's just really unable to, be that great with catching up and having to traverse the map, when their entire ability is to stop and place things, stop and pick up things. And I think that, if we're not getting the 2% haste for Trapper, at least maybe reduce the tear radius so that we are able to catch up. And in my opinion, I think that, either we can have a waterlogged shoe kind of like applied to other characters that are unable to catch up at all, or we can have the tear radius changes to characters that do have a little bit of movement like Trapper does. And it's very, very small. It's very, very unnoticeable, honestly. Like, the time it takes to place down that trap is still very long, and that reduces the amount of distance you get anyway. But I do think that if we're talking specifically Ghostface, and we're talking specifically Skull Merchant and stuff like that, which we obviously know that Ghostface is probably the second worst killer in the game at this point, I think that a 2% is really not going to be that bad of a change. Or because we already know the 24 meters are already on Ghostface, and it's like okay, I guess, of a change. It's not really massive or really does much for you. It does matter though, in the sense that he does get revealed a lot, and it's very easy to reveal him. So in that sense, I am glad that it does exist. But with that being said, what are your thoughts on this? Like, do you think that Ghostface could benefit from a 2% increase? Do you want to see other killers with 24 meter tear radiuses that are a bit more slow and are maybe not like stealth killers per se? What do you think about a waterlogged shoe kind of thing, where it's like 2%, a 2% increase to their movement from 115 to 117? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that could be beneficial? Let me know. So if you want to support the channel, links are in the description. Go ahead and check out the other videos. You can follow on Twitch, watch me play Killer live, and let me know your guys' thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next one.